Hello and welcome back to All for United, and this is your just another transfer show. Now, normally, as you know, the way the show works, we look at all the major stories surrounding Manchester United from the past week. However, this is not your usual show. This is a Jadon Sancho special. Now, for this show, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Ronan Murphy from Goal. He's the Bundesliga journalist, expert, however you will. Delighted to have you on, Ronan. Thanks for joining us. How are you, mate?
Not too bad. And yourselves?
Yeah, good. Thank you. I'm also delighted to say I'm joined by Hayder again, who was fantastic on the last show. Thanks for joining us again, Hayder, to put your views across.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be on.
Cool. Right. Well, as always, guys, we do want to hear from you as well. So do get involved. Put your comments in the video. You know, follow us on Twitter. Give the channel a like. Give it a subscribe. But let's get straight down to it as soon as we got you here, Ronan. I think it's a transfer that 99% of United fans probably want to go through. Borussia Dortmund, Jadon Sancho to United. Let's get straight into the bones of it. What are you hearing? Where are we with this deal, do you think?
Yeah, so I think the big issue at the moment is the cost. So it's what Borussia Dortmund see as the value of Jadon Sancho and how much they're willing to let him leave for, and whether Man United are willing to meet that fee. It looks to be 120 million euro, and there's reports obviously coming out from Germany that United bid a lot less than that, 90 million euro, and then there's conflicting reports in England that no offer has been made yet. So even if, regardless of whether an offer has been made or not, you kind of have to think that Dortmund will stick to this 120 million kind of fee that they've been requesting all along, because they've been insistent even long before coronavirus hit that they would only sell him for the right fee. And even after the kind of football stopped for a while and even came back, all the talk from Borussia Dortmund was that they weren't going to move on this fee, and so they seem to be sticking to the fact that they are looking for 120 million. And Jadon Sancho hasn't put in a request to leave, so they're not going to. They have no reason to sell, so they're going to try and get as much money as they can for him, because they know, I suppose, it's kind of, everyone thinks it's going to happen at this stage. So it's just a matter of maybe Man United actually giving in to Borussia Dortmund's demands.
Yeah, interesting you say that about, Jadon Sancho hasn't asked to leave. First of all, do you think he will have to do that in order to maybe force this deal through? And also, secondly, there has been a few cheeky whispers in Germany, coming out of Germany, that actually Liverpool might be his preferred destination. Do you think he's sold on a move to United solely? And do you think, again, like I just said, will he have to ask for this move in order to push it through?
Yeah, I think to answer the will he have to ask for a move, I don't think he's unhappy at Borussia Dortmund. He knows obviously Manchester United are interested in him and he would like to go there, but I think he's happy enough at Borussia Dortmund. So if he didn't leave this summer, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for him. It's not like Aubameyang a few years ago going on strike or kind of going missing for a couple of days, and the club weren't able to get in contact with him before he moved to Arsenal for when he pushed for that move. So it's not a similar scenario. Or even Ousmane Dembele, when he went to Barcelona, he pushed for that move too, whereas Jadon Sancho seems happy enough at Borussia Dortmund at the moment, and if a move doesn't happen this summer, I don't think he's going to be too disappointed by it, because maybe you look at the Euros being pushed back to next year, so he'll have another season at Borussia Dortmund. He mightn't have the same kind of media pressure that he would playing for a team in the Premier League, especially playing for Man United. So it mightn't be the end of the world for him if he spent another season in Borussia Dortmund, had a great Euros, and then maybe move to a bigger team or a kind of a top European elite side. So I don't think he is going to push for a move. I can't see that happening. And as for the Liverpool talk, it seemed to be a throwaway line in a kicker article more than anything else, that he preferred to go to Liverpool. So I think he would like to go to a team that can compete for the Champions League and that can compete for the Premier League. So it's just whether he, like you guys, believe in the Man United project, and if Man United can restore themselves to that sort of team that can compete every season, which Liverpool are at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. Now, looking at the player himself, Hayder, I'm going to come to you now, because obviously you and me, we're a representation of the United fan base today, hopefully a good one. why should we get excited about Jadon Sancho and the prospect of him coming to United, do you think?
I think it's important to look at the fact that he is probably one of the best options available at right wing on the market. And you could argue he's probably one of the best talents around, especially seemingly available. You look at perhaps the likes of Sterling and people like that, we're not going to go and sign them. So the fact that there's a player potentially available at a big fee, but available nonetheless, then Man United have to make that signing because it's a massive statement by them, not just to show that they're progressing, but they're able to still pull in players of that caliber. I think when you look at Sancho, it's so impressive the way he's exploded onto the scene and the way that he's just taken to the Bundesliga as if, you know, he's been playing in the youth German sides for years. And it's easy to forget the mental strength and courage it took for him to actually leave City and to move abroad to a different country, different culture, different language. And the way he settled so seamlessly is really, really impressive. And it shows his mental fortitude and his character. And importantly as well, he's paved a path for many young British players to go there and to excel, develop, thrive in a league where they're seemingly getting more chances than in the Premier League. And looking at Jadon Sancho's time at Dortmund thus far, 2.5 short seasons later, you know, he's got 30 goals and 34 assists in an incredible 78 games, 11 caps for England. I'm not sure he would have been capped for England if he was still at Man City. And it's very interesting to see that since moving, he's had 78 appearances in comparison to, let's say, Phil Foden, who's had 41 Premier League appearances, which suggests he made the right decision. And often you see with young players that decision-making and end product is something which takes time to develop. But Sancho clearly is someone that is, you know, above his years in terms of maturity and quality. And what really stands out to me is his dribbling, his close control, the sort of stuff that United fans will just get off their seat when they see it. And perhaps we're seeing that now with our front line, but we haven't seen a player maybe this exciting since Cristiano Ronaldo. And the dribbling and close control is definitely illustrated by his first ever assist at Dortmund, where he pulled the ball out of the sky with the outside of his foot and carried on at full pace, a skill which is very hard to do for any player, and he provided the assist. And he has that pace which will allow United to thrive on the counter-attack. We've seen under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at the moment that United like to break at pace.
I'm just going to hold you there because I do want to move. And obviously I want to come to you on this. You obviously watch more Bundesliga than we do, Ronan. You know, you follow the league really well. Are we right to believe the hype? Do you think he's exactly what United need when you look at United's squad at the moment?
I think United need players in defence and in goal maybe, and in the midfield more than they need Jadon Sancho at the moment. But that said, he is the kind of team that would walk into any kind of player that would walk into any starting 11, and you kind of would have to feel for the likes of a Mason Greenwood that he might push out of the team if he were to move to Man United. So I can see exactly why Man United are interested in him. He has all the qualities you spoke of. He's kind of a difference maker. He's one of these rare players who's able to change a game. And you saw sometimes for Borussia Dortmund, even when he wasn't starting, he might come off the bench and he'd be the kind of the player that would inject that spark, that X factor, something that we don't see too much even in the Premier League. It's only maybe Eden Hazard in recent years that has been able to light up the league kind of in that way. So he has that. I wouldn't go as far as to call him the next Cristiano Ronaldo, like you guys are to put that sort of pressure on him. But I think he has a huge ceiling, and if he continues to develop the way he's going, he definitely will be one of the world's best players. So you can see why Man United are going after him. And from kind of looking at his development in Germany, where, like I said, he kind of maybe started off as a bench player, he came on and he showed enough every time off the bench that it was impossible not to start him. So he would be able to do the same, obviously, at Man United, and he would just walk into the first team and the same way he does for England. So he is just this kind of world-class talent already.
Yeah, I mean, you did touch on this in your opening line about these conflicting reports in Germany and in England that a bid's been made. And in Germany, they were saying a bid's been made. In England, they were denying that. Why do you think these reports are coming out? Do you think this is brickmanship from both clubs? Do you think clubs are putting stories out there in order to try and force each other's hand?
clubs always kind of do this. They always kind of speak to the media and kind of leak stuff to the media. And you kind of see it a bit more maybe in Germany, where the directors or the people involved in making the decisions actually speak and come to and talk or are seen making statements like Michael Zorc at Borussia Dortmund. You don't hear people above Ole Gunnar Solskjaer speaking to the media in Germany or in England the way you would with guys in Germany. So as for the bids, it probably is brinksmanship. It is kind of testing the water. It is kind of putting your stamp out there to say that this is your stance, and kind of seeing how the public feel about it and seeing how the players feel about it, and maybe putting pressure on the opposite side by saying that you won't accept 120 million, or you're only willing to pay 80 million pounds, or these kind of things. So it is like a public haggle for something on the market. That's kind of what it is. So I think we'll see as the next couple of weeks go on. Borussia Dortmund seem to have set this August 10th deadline, because that's when they resume training for the new season. So if we kind of, as we get closer to that, I think you'll hear more and more about the move and whether Man United are willing to meet the fee that Borussia Dortmund are looking for at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna get onto the fee in a minute. I just want to come to you, Hader, quickly about, from a United point of view. We said there, Ronan, there seems to be a lot of brinkmanship, a lot of tug of war at the moment. Like, we want to accept your demands and they want to accept ours. Do you think it's important that United get this deal done early and it doesn't sort of drag too long into the summer and hinder some of the other business that they would like to do?
Yeah, it has to. I mean, United in the past have been ones to drag out sagas. We've seen with Maguire, with Wan-Bissaka. But I think the reason why United are doing that as well is because in the past they have had their pants pulled down in respect to transfers. Paying 80 million for Maguire when we could have paid 60 million a year before is an example of it. And United have spent a lot of money over the past 7 years since Sir Alex has left. They haven't spent it well. So I think when it comes to, I kind of agree with Ronan that United need defenders, but having watched United week in, week out with the squad depth issues and with the amount of games that we play, Jadon Sancho is a must for me. And Mason Greenwood can go and play behind Martial. He can go and play on the left as well. So I think that United need to get this wrapped up pretty quickly, because there's so much work still to do in terms of a midfielder and bringing in a defender or two. So yeah, I think United will get it wrapped up, but again, I think it's firmly on the price. But that's just my opinion as a United fan, and not as an expert.
No, thank you. So let's move on to the sort of valuation, because that seems to change all the time, Ronan. I mean, obviously we're hearing what United would like to pay, obviously what Dortmund would want to pay. Are you prepared to sort of put your neck on the line, so to speak, and give us a fee of what you actually think it will be? Do you think it'll come, let's base it on 120 million euros at the moment that Dortmund want? Do you see them budging far from that, or do you think United will have to put up that money?
I don't. I think what you might see is maybe them reaching that figure by adding in some bonuses, but perhaps achievable bonuses, because sometimes you get these fees and there might be 20 million of bonuses in them, but there'll be bonuses that are kind of unrealistic or kind of hard to achieve, like maybe win the Champions League or things like that. So I think if Borussia Dortmund are to move away from that 120 million, it will be kind of maybe 100 million and then 20 million in bonuses, but it will be things like maybe getting into the Champions League or hopefully for Man United fans winning the Premier League perhaps. But I think it would be surprising if Borussia Dortmund do move from the figure they're on at the moment, because like I said, they don't need to. He's not looking to leave. They don't necessarily need to sell him. And I know a lot of Man United fans got very excited when Borussia Dortmund released their financial statements and they said that they had lost 35 million because of coronavirus pandemic. But every club in the world has lost this, and you look at Man United's figures, their finances for the quarter are even worse. So you have to take those things into consideration. And Borussia Dortmund are a team that are actually profitable, or they're not kind of in huge debt, because the fan-owned kind of model they have in Germany suits them. And as you've seen in recent years, they've made a lot of money selling players like Dembele or Aubameyang and these sort of guys. So they're not kind of in a position that they have to sell them. So unless the value is met, I don't see them selling it. So you probably will be looking at 100 million and bonuses to get them.
Yeah. Now, I mean, obviously, there's a chance that United could, play hardball as well and say we'll wait till next summer. But by that time, his price will come drastically down, and I would imagine a whole host of other clubs will be willing to negotiate by that time, and that's the risk that United have got. Just looking at this deal as well, Ronan, while I've got you here, obviously it was quite really reported that United were really keen on him last season, obviously last summer, but everything was a bit too rushed and the deal didn't get through. But do you think there was quite a lot of groundwork done on this deal last summer in terms of building relations and putting things in place to do a deal for this summer?
I'm not necessarily sure that's definitely the case. The clubs always keep in close contact, and there has been deals, obviously, between Borussia Dortmund and Manchester United before Mkhitaryan and Kagawa, players like this. So I think there is a relationship there already. So I don't think necessarily that the kind of movements that they made or the requests or even the inquiries they made about them last summer would make a huge difference this summer. I think the clubs and agents and all the people involved in transfers, they kind of know each other well enough anyway. So it's, as long as they have kind of a mutual understanding of each other and not maybe a hated relationship or a heated relationship in some cases where you might see bridges have been burned because of particular agents or particular people leaving one club for another and that sort of thing. But you don't have that between Borussia Dortmund and Manchester United. So there's not going to be anything standing in the way like someone getting the huff because someone slighted them in the past. So I wouldn't see anything being an issue there, or I wouldn't see it necessarily being a bonus, like you say. I think it's just business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and business is business. Now, Hayder, from a United fan's perspective, and you've mentioned it before, and obviously Ronan's mentioned it today, there are other areas of the squad that United are looking to improve this season, and we have got a reported budget of around 100 to 150 million pounds. How careful have United got to be that they get the right deal here financially? Because obviously, as we've talked, right wing is not the only area of the squad team that we need to improve this summer. So, how cautious do we have to be that we don't overpay?
It's really, really important. I think this is probably one of the most important summers for Man United in a long while, and they can't be left behind. We're seeing Chelsea show a lot of ambition. Man City are definitely going to be spending again. They've already brought in 2 players through the door at very reasonable prices combined. And of course, Liverpool are very, very far ahead. So for me, I think United have shown in the last sort of, I suppose, 3-4 weeks since the restart that they're playing in a positive light. There's an upward trajectory. We've got some talented players. It seems to be like an attractive prospect for any player now that we have Champions League. Signing someone like Sancho, I think, is imperative. I think we have to. It's probably going to be about £100 million. How that's structured, as Ronan said, remains to be seen with those add-ons. But I think he's a must. If he's the only player we sign, he is the player we have to sign this summer. Signing, for example, someone who's a replacement 2 or 3 places below on our list is not something that we should be doing. So for me, I wouldn't really be going above 100 million. And as you said, our budget seems to be about 150 million plus any sales. So I think Sanchez leaving is going to be massive for us in terms of getting those wages off the bill. He's got a £500,000 a week wage, which is crazy. You could bring in 3 very good players on that. And then shipping out the likes of Smalling, Jones, Rojo, Lingard, maybe Mata. I think that could spare about 50, 60 million. We'll see. And it's so important we bring in another midfielder. We've seen that Bruno Fernandes and Pogba can't play week in, week out. And the options after them are such a dramatic drop in quality. So looking at Grealish, too expensive at 80 million. Van der Beek's available for 40 million. Something I want to ask Ronan is obviously he covers the German league.
Go ahead.
Thiago, for example, is he actually up for sale? 25 million seems to be an absolute steal for a world-class player. Perhaps
he is looking to leave. So at the moment, he was set to sign a new contract in May, and it looked like that was going to be kind of, they had reached an agreement, but at the last minute he said he decided not to sign it, despite the fact that all his needs were met. So he kind of is looking for a new challenge or something different towards the end of his career because he's 29. But I think the 25 million fee that you've quoted is a bit too low. What seems to be coming out in Germany last week is somewhere between 30 and 40 million, so 40 million euros. So that's, I'm not sure exactly what the exchange rate these days is, but it's probably 35 million pounds, I'd say, or more. So you'd be looking to pay for him. But even at that price, you would think that someone like Thiago is is a bargain. I know people are kind of questioning his injury history, and he hasn't played a full season, but he only misses a few games every season. And when he's playing and when he's on the field, he's kind of someone who can make any team tick. So he will be a great signing for Manchester United.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's whether he wants to come to United. I don't know if we are the most attractive prospect in terms of winning titles. We have to be honest. We've been out in the wilderness for years, so we're starting to show some upward trajectory. But I wouldn't say that we're the sort of team that can guarantee winning the Premier League and the Champions League. It's just being completely honest. So whether Liverpool have an upper hand in that respect, we know that in terms of money-wise, they haven't got money just lying around. They might have to sell players to buy. Hence why Werner's now in a Chelsea shirt. So for me, it's so important that get Sancho over the line. But after that, a midfielder has to come in, and we're looking at Gabriel as well, apparently, or a centre back. So getting those three in through the door is so important. Whether we can do that in 150 million is very, very unlikely. So the sales are really important as well this summer. So yeah, 150 million plus sales, I'd say, and the squad needs improvement for sure.
Yeah, thanks for that. And it's interesting that you mentioned Thiago there and sort of coming on to other players. While we've got you quickly before we let you go, Ronan, because we do appreciate your time. Thanks for so much again for coming on. Like I say, there has been talk now that, whether United are getting frustrated or not, I don't know, but they may be looking at alternative targets. And funny enough, a couple of those targets actually play over in the Bundesliga. So I just wanted to ask you about them. Kingsley Coman was one that was making quite a lot of waves over in the UK here last week. Do you think, first of all, he would be a good player for United? And do you think United's interest in him is real?
I think he would be a good addition for Manchester United. He will be a good kind of a squad option, or it could be a good rotation option to have in attack because he can play on either wing. And I think Manchester United probably are interested in him. I wouldn't rule it out, but I think the biggest problem here is Bayern Munich aren't going to sell him. They're not going to let him leave him on loan. They brought in Sané, but Sané was kind of he was seen as their marquee winger, but they also want to have depth in their wing positions. So the fact that Coman can play on either wing is a huge addition to them. And if they let him go, and they're kind of haggling with Inter about Perisic at the moment, so it's not clear whether they'll have him next season. So they kind of need to keep Coman, because I think his age and his ability and everything kind of about him at the moment points to Bayern Munich keeping him. So I can't see him going anywhere this summer or next summer. I think he's going to be a long-term player for Bayern Munich.
And while I've got you here, just quickly, the other rumour that's been said, well, it's probably been around for a couple of years now, actually, is Leon Bailey, obviously a Bayer Leverkusen player. His name seems to come up in the conversation when United looking at alternatives. Have you heard anything on him about his future, or whether, he would look to move to England?
Yeah, so the biggest talking point of him kind of recently is move to Italy. Seems to be the hints that come out, but there's always these stories about Leon Bailey. There was even stories a few years ago that he might have been eligible for England to be in England's World Cup squad the last time out. So I think with Bailey, a lot of the stuff you have to kind of take with a pinch of salt, because his dad is his agent, and I've spoken to him a few times, and he's an interesting character, but he kind of likes to talk. So yeah, it's kind of hard to know what's true and what isn't true with Leon Bailey. So I wouldn't say he's on the same caliber as a Sancho, definitely not, and he's probably not the same caliber player as a Kingsley Coman at the moment. So he's probably the next step down. And if you're looking at Manchester United buying a winger and trying to sign a winger that would go into the first 11, I wouldn't even guarantee he will be able to go into the first 11 immediately. I think what they have there at the moment is probably better than Leon Bailey, because he's one of these players who kind of shines in some games and then he might disappear for a few matches, and so he probably needs to be more consistent. But he's still young, so there's plenty of room for that to improve in the future. But I don't think he's one for now. He just kind of broke through young, but he hasn't really developed that much since.
No, thank you. Well, just so before we end, I just want to end it. I want to go all the way back to the start. I want to go to Jadon Sancho, and I want you to tell us, Ronan, if you had to put a percentage out of 100, obviously, on the chances of him coming to United this summer, where do you see it right now?
I'd say 80%. I probably think there's a much bigger chance of him going to Manchester United than not, just because of the fact it's dragged on so long and the fact that Manchester United are so interested in him. And if Ed Woodward wasn't able to push this deal over the line what that would mean for him. So I think he's going to have to cough up the money. It's just too much egg on his face if he doesn't. So I think it is going to happen. It's just Borussia Dortmund are going to hold as firm as possible, and they're not going to take a penny less or a cent less than they want.
Perfect. Thank you. Look, we really appreciate your time, Ronan. Your insight's been fantastic today. Plenty of detail there, plenty of meat on the bone. I think that's what all United fans want, because you know what the wonderful world of Twitter is like. You see bits and bobs and you don't know what you can trust and what you can't trust. But from an insider like yourself, we really appreciate your time, mate. Thanks for coming on, and we hope we can get you on again sometime.
You're most welcome. Good luck, lads, and good luck in the Champions League again next season.
Yeah, cheers. It might be interesting. Hayder, thank you to you as always, mate. Your insight's been great today. Great to have you on again, and I'm looking forward to working with you more in the future, mate. So we'll hear plenty more from you. That's all we've got time for, guys. Like I say, thank you for watching today. This has been just another United transfer show. Don't forget, give the channel a like, give it a subscribe, and check us out on all the social media profiles. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week. Cheers. Bye.